group of conservatives are heading to Facebook headquarters tomorrow to sit down with CEO Mark Zuckerberg. Facebook accused last week of bias after a former employee claimed that they took conservative news out when it was kind of flowing into the trending section on the front page of Facebook. Among those attending this get-together are Glenn Beck, Barry Bennett of the Trump campaign, S.E. Cupp, Arthur Brooks of AEI, and Fox's own Dana Perino invited to be part of this discussion as well. She joins us live. She's co-host of The Five and former White House press secretary, of course. Good to see you, Dana.
Of course.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
You think, though, that social media overall has been a huge boon to conservatism. Why?
I do. Well, I think that this issue that Facebook is dealing with is different from its news feed. It is their news trends, and we can talk about that in a second. Overall, I remember looking at Facebook, and not just Facebook, but Twitter, all of these places where social media has provided conservatives this outlet to talk direct to consumer without a mainstream media filter. And if you look at some of the big campaigns just of the last year, Ben Carson being one of them in particular, who was an expert on Facebook, really built his campaign. All those small donations were coming through mostly through Facebook. Chris Christie's another example of that, where they utilized all sorts of different ways to engage with potential voters, and because they didn't have a ton of money on the Christie campaign, for example, so they could utilize Facebook. So there are a lot of good things I think that Facebook has done. This troubling report about suppressing conservative viewpoints and news stories is something that I think Facebook, one, it's not in their interest to do that, to alienate half of the country, and they're taking it seriously. I also think it's probably fairly solvable, and so I'm looking forward to going tomorrow to hearing more about what they found. They say that they haven't found evidence of the problem, and that they're willing to try to solve it.
It's interesting because it's sort of this egalitarian idea of social media, and the fact that they're putting out there, oh, this is what our people are clicking on. So here's how we know what you guys care about out there in the world, because these are the things that you're looking at the most. But then it becomes something different. It becomes sort of an editorial question, just like the front page of the New York Times or the front page of the Wall Street Journal, when choices are made about what is prominent on the paper. And that's where the issue sort of emerges, I think. Matt Schlapp, who is on this program a lot, you know Matt very well, he is taking the other tack. He says he will not go. He does not want to be part of this forum, and here are some of the reasons why. He says, first of all, the deck is stacked. CPAC content, which is his organization, egregiously underperforms on Facebook compared to Twitter and other platforms. He says that's evidence to him that they're not treated fairly. He says the Facebook trending news chief, Tom Stocky, is a maxed-out donor to Hillary Clinton. He goes on to say of the 1,000 political donations from Facebook employees, 80% have gone to liberals. And one more, he says Facebook holds liberal positions on important issues such as privacy, property, and priests. There's an issue with priests not being able to use the title father on Facebook, which is another issue, but it's interesting. So why do you disagree with your friend Matt?
Well, I don't disagree with Matt. I think Matt can make his own decisions, and the American Conservative Union, and CPAC in particular, is so big that they could get their own meeting with Facebook, and they probably will. I like to go to meetings just so I could find out the information. There is this discrepancy between Facebook and Twitter, two very different social media algorithms being used in order to figure out what's trending, what's not. And one of the things I want to find out is, what is the difference? Because some people say, well, conservative stuff does really well on Twitter, but it doesn't do well on Facebook. Well, why is that? I don't know the answer to that. That's one of the things I'd like to find out about. But I think there's also an overall issue with Silicon Valley, and something I hope to be able to talk about, which is, to me, companies like Facebook and others out there, they really prize gender and racial diversity. They don't so much seem to like diversity of thought, and I think it's one of the things that Matt Schlapp is pointing out there. I think that Zuckerberg, asking for this meeting, and says it might not be the first, it might have a series of these types of meetings, they're taking it seriously enough that, because in their business model, it's not in their interest to not be inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when you take a look at this whole emergence, you know, this complaint that came from a former staffer, I see it as a good thing as well, because there's pressure on this organization, which has a huge amount of influence, especially among young people. It raises a question. It gets people talking about it. It makes, I hope, people who look at Facebook and what's trending say to themselves, well, that's interesting. Look at those top 5 stories.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there that I've, clicked on in the past week or whatever, or days. It raises a really important issue and puts pressure on them, to be fair.
I think so, too. And also, when Facebook decided to try to get into the news business, it opened itself up to this kind of criticism without the safeguards that they needed to protect themselves against it. So Facebook created a tempest in a teapot, and they're trying to cool it all down. I don't know if that will happen tomorrow, but I'll go in with an open mind and come back and tell you all about it.
Exactly what you think about it. I hope you will come back and tell us how it goes and what you think about it. Also, Dana has a great piece on FoxNews.com this morning on why she is a conservative. That's very interesting. So I urge everybody to check that out on FoxNews.com. She's a great writer and a great contributor to that website. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
I feel all buoyed for my day.
Yay! You're all ready to go.